I'm Aindle, Baron of Northwoods, and I would like to welcome you to this year's It Takes My Child to Raise a Virtual Village. I'm sorry that we can't all be together this year, because I kind of like having an opportunity to see all of you. But in a way, it kind of ended up being a good thing, because I get a chance to do something that I haven't been able to do for a few years, and that is play Shoot the Messenger. Before I stepped up as Baron, I used to run Shoot the Messenger, and that would give me a chance to play with my rubber band guns and bows and arrows and catapults and crossbows and anything else that we could find to shoot at will. Now, Will the Herald is our target. At least it was at It Takes My Child to Raise a Village. So let's get right to it. If you've got some rubber bands, that's all that we need to use to play Shoot the Messenger. Now, we do have a few rules, and that is that we don't shoot at people. And we always make sure before we fire at will that there's nothing to our left, nothing to our right, and nothing between us and our target. We're missing a target here. Maybe it would be a good idea right now to get one together. Let's see, I have a pencil, I have paper, and I have tape. Now, any paper will do. Any scrap paper will do. I mean, this is from our Northwoods Baronial brunch that we had the first Sunday at noon in March. And here it's talking about how we had fresh bread, olives, cheese, grapes, honey, roasted brisket, olive oil with herbs, radish salt, or radish salad rather, roasted eggs, almonds, butter, and wine. We have a brunch right now during the pandemic to get to virtually talk to everybody. And so that's at noon on the first Sunday of the month. So like I was saying, there's nothing on the back of this page. So if I take a second here, I can very quickly sketch out Will the Herald. And there we go. We've got our target. And now, with a piece of tape, we are all ready to play Shoot the Messenger. The reason it's called Shoot the Messenger is heralds are messengers. And the fact that I'm also a herald, the people in the canton thought it would be kind of funny for me to be shooting a messenger. Now, you can use anything that you'd like for a target. Mine is just made out of paper with a pencil drawing. And you can do anything that you want. If you've got crayons, if you've got markers, you can make as fancy or as simple a target as you would like. So once again, all that we need is our rubber band, and we make sure we're safe. No one to the left, no one to the right, no one between us and our target. There we go. Well, that was kind of fun, but not really, because it was rubber band guns that I liked playing with. But we do have a gun, and you've got a gun with you all the time. It's right here. There's our gun. So we take our rubber band, hold it with a finger, wrap it around our thumb, put it on our long finger, and we now have a rubber band gun. So let's check and make sure everything is good and safe and try this out. No one to the left, no one to the right, no one between us and the target. We can fire at will. Well, that was kind of fun, but not quite as fun as it was with my guns. Now, something that we have around the house, and that probably a lot of you have, are pencils. And you also have rubber bands, because otherwise you wouldn't have rubber band guns, right? So let's use 3 pencils and make ourselves a rubber band gun. This is one that I used to make in my youth. Now, the trick is to have a long one, and that's what you use for your barrel. What you want to do is make sure that you have the end to shoot from is the part with the eraser, because rubber bands do not really hold very well on the pointed end. So let's make ourselves a rubber band gun. So I take two pencils, I put them together, and I use the end where the eraser would be facing toward the other eraser. Now the reason why I do this is that these ridges help hold the rubber band in when this is a trigger. So now it's just a matter of taking our couple of rubber bands and putting them on here to make our rubber band gun. A few turns around here until it's nice and tight. Like a couple more there. Make sure that we've got it smoothed up close to the trigger part. Looks like it's good and tight, so we're good there. Now a second one here near the end. Same thing. And you can use one strong rubber band like I am here. You can use a couple smaller ones, however you want to do it. Now there's probably a lot of videos on YouTube on how to make these. This is the way I learned when I was a kid. And then, next thing, is kind of spread this apart, and it works good if the pencil has a point on it. And you put the third one in between. So now, we've got our trigger and our gun. So let's see how well this works. Let's get ourselves a rubber band, get it loaded here. Get it under the trigger. Make sure it's on there and good and tight. There we go. This on the end. And now, once again, we make sure there's no one to the left, no one to the right, no one between us and the target. Now we can fire at will. Not too bad. Just out of a few pencils and some rubber bands. But what I used to have fun with was the rubber band guns that I made out of wood. And we can do the same thing with something else that we have around the house a lot. At least we do. We have a lot of Amazon Prime boxes and boxes from other companies. So we've got plenty of cardboard all over the place. And I do have a few clothespins as well. So I went and using the cardboard and the clothespin, made a rubber band gun similar to the ones that I made out of wood. And I'll show you how to make these in a little bit here. So let's see if it works. So we take it, get it loaded up. Now we make sure we're safe. No one to the left, no one to the right, no one between us and the target. Good shot. Now I have a different one that I made. Now this is one that I would make out of popsicle sticks usually, but we have plenty of cardboard. And so with this, we'll do the same thing. Load the rubber band on here. Then taking the trigger, no one to the left, no one to the right, no one between us and the target. And there we go. So I will show you how to make these two rubber band guns. With this one, you'll need a clothespin. With both of them, you will need cardboard and you will need glue and then something to cut the cardboard with. I've got a pair of scissors that I use, but if you're older or if you have help from an adult and you're younger, you can also use a knife. But before I do that, I have to change clothes because the Baroness doesn't like it very much if I work with glue in my nice baronial clothes. So I'll be back in a little bit. So I'm back in clothes that the Baroness will let me use. What I've done here, as you can see, I just cut off one of the flaps from the box. And so this one I decided is going to be what I made first, which is this gun here. the one with the clothespin on it. So figuring out this length, what I did is I took a clothespin and I put it on here where the trigger would be. Then I took a rubber band and I stretched it, and it looked like that's pretty good length, a good stretch to get it. I mean, you can go longer, you can go shorter, but it looked to me that that was a pretty good length. So I then took my pencil and marked it that that's my length. Then I know that I want a certain amount of structure here, and as you can see, it's kind of a triangle shape, and so what that does is that gives more strength for all of this to hold the rubber band. So using that design, I just came down a little bit, then kind of drew an angle down. Then I tried to figure out, okay, this is far enough down, here's the top, this is where my hand's going to be, so here's about where I want the bottom of the gun to be, so that way it fits my hand. So how wide do I want it? Oh, that looks like that would be a comfortable way for my hand to go, so I want it about that wide. So that's how I figured out. So you can use the same type of thing in figuring out how you want your gun to be and what size you want your gun. Now I think I might take this up a little bit, kind of to match this one. So that way it's not as hard for me to reach the trigger. So I still want that angle. So I'll come to here, go to here. I'm up about that far, so about there. So once I've got it drawn out as to what I want, then it's just a matter of cutting it out. And like I said, you can use whatever you have available to you. For me, I kind of like using scissors because I've got these utility scissors and it does the job pretty good for me. As you can see, cuts right through it. There's my first one. So once the first one is done, then it's just a matter of taking another piece of the cardboard, lining it up, using that as my pattern. And cutting that out. So I will pause the video while I cut out the next piece. Now you see I've got two pieces cut. So now I'm ready to glue them together. But before I do that, I want to make sure it's comfortable for my hand. So I take it, go like this, put it on. Yep, that looks like that's good. Got a good grip here. So should be able to fire and use it pretty good. But before I glue it, I don't want to get any glue on the table. So I'm going to take a scrap piece here of cardboard and then put my purple glue on. I'm using a glue stick. You can use hot glue, you can use Elmer's glue, you can use whatever glue you would like to use. This happens to be what we had, so that's why I decided I'd use this. Press it all down so it's nice and good and firm. Press together. It dries pretty quick, and already I've got the start on a pretty good gun. So now I just need to take another piece of cardboard. Guess I'll use this. Draw it out again. For my third layer. So I'll pause while I cut this one out too. Now I've got my third one cut out. As you can see, it's a pretty good fit. So once again, take my scrap piece, put that down, put my glue on, you can see this is already stuck together. It dries that quickly. So now I have the main part of the gun. Now I know I'm going to need a place, just like I did on the first one, to spot the notch right here on the end for the rubber band. So I'll do that now. Let's make a cut. And all it needs is a little notch for the rubber band to hold. So now that's good. Now the top here, as you notice, it's not even. It's got all those holes in it. And so here, in order to give a good spot for this to hold on to, I'm just taking a piece of cardboard, cutting it out the width here. So that way I can glue the clothespin to the piece of cardboard, the support here, and then glue that to the top. So let's get our clothespin. So now we know how long it needs to be. I put it on here. That's even on this side. My cardboard down. Glue on the bottom. See, this is already stuck together. Press that down good. Now, make sure I've got an end where it's all flat. Try to put it on the right way. Hold it there a little bit. And in probably about 5-10 minutes, should be ready to go. So let's take 5 while we let this dry. Well, I'm back. It was a little more than 5 minutes because I made a mocha latte for Her Excellency. So you can see everything's together, everything's tight, and let's check it out. That holds. That fits. Everything looks good. Let's see. We have Harold. We still have Harold. He's up here, so let's give it a shot. So let's look to the left, no one there. Look to the right, no one there. No one between us and the target. We can shoot at will. Pretty good. Didn't take all that long to make it. So now we'll move on to the next one. So the other gun I showed was this one, which has a trigger. So it's a little bit trickier than the other one. And for this, I actually used 6 layers of cardboard. This is only 3. But this is a good guide for this one. Now the hardest part of the whole construction on this is figuring out what the trigger is going to be. You need something that, in my case, I wanted it to fit 2 fingers, so I knew I wanted it this wide. The rounded part allows it from the notches to just gently lift up the rubber band to clear it up over the notch. Because what happens is the rubber band is here, and this just pushes it up in order to release it and fire the gun. So this has to be able to slide back and forth. Having a triangle shape gives this more support at the top than just cutting this straight, because this is cardboard. Now, if I was doing it with popsicle sticks, going straight wouldn't be a problem, but we're using cardboard, so we want to try and strengthen this as much as we can. That's another reason why I used 2 layers. So for the first thing is figure out how wide you want it, and then about how tall you want it. And since we've got this one that we know worked pretty good, I know I can go straighter on this, and so here's where I would have to have the top of it to clear. So with this as a guide, I'm in a pretty good shape for making a gun with a trigger. Using that as this is my pattern. So I can take this, draw this one out, and cut it out. Up a little bit there. Yeah, so you can see it looks pretty good there. Now this, as you can see, is a little straighter and a little longer. But I didn't really need all this on the bottom. So on this one, I'm just going to make it fit a little better. But you can see how this is straighter here in order to allow for this trigger. So if I'm going to do the same thing with this one, I'm going to need to bring that up so that the trigger can go here. So I'm going to draw where my trigger is. So the part that needs to come out is to here. Now I'm going to want 6 of these, and so I'm not going to leave the video going while I cut all 6 of them, because like I said, this is 6 layers thick, because I've got 2 layers for each on the outside, and then the double layer in here where the trigger goes. And here you can see how the trigger, when I press it, pushes up on the notch. And so the notch is something that I know I'm going to want. So as I have my trigger and I pull my trigger, I'm going to want it to hit a notch. And the notch I want to be about there. So I'm going to cut the notch in on all of these pieces as I make them off of my first pattern here. Right. As you can see now, I have 6 all cut out. So what I'm going to do is take 4 of them and glue them together. As I find where I hid the glue stick. It fell on the floor. So first one. Now I'm only gluing 4 of these together, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'm putting those 2 together. Putting that aside, doing the next set here. And now I have 2 sets ready to go. Next I have my trigger. Now I put my trigger together, like I said, as I figured out that I wanted 2. I'm going to go up 2 fingers high. So I marked my 2 fingers high. I needed to clear the gun. So I know I needed at least that long. And then, like I said, I know that I need an arch on it. And the triangle. And then using it as a pattern, cutting out the second one, and then gluing it together like I did here. So as you see, this needs to be able to slide back and forth. So this will not exactly fit in between there. So if I take this, because I know this matches the rest, I know that I need a stop here. Once I've cleared the notch. So I cut that there. Cut this one in the same place. And glue those together. Now you will notice I'm putting the cap on the glue every time because I found that the glue dries not only fast on this, on the cardboard or paper or whatever you're gluing together, but it also dries out fast here too. So now I've got this part. So now I know this has to clear here, so that means it's going to be running along there. So here I want to cut toward the bottom to give a little bit of space so that I'm not binding. So now I have these, which will be the outside, and I have these, which will be the inside pieces. So now I just pick one for one side. So let's go with this here. And what I'm going to do is have this stick out a little bit on the end. And before I glue it on, I'm going to put the little notch in here to hold the rubber band. The reason I do this is it gives it a little bit better aim. Because as you notice on here, I did the same thing. And what this does is the rubber band goes around here to a point, so that way it'll shoot straighter. So now I know this will clear here. So if I stick it out a little bit beyond the end, the trigger should still work just fine. Come a little further here, but it's still stopped. And it'll still clear that when I pull it back. So now, glue it together. Stick out a little bit. My two bottom pieces, glue those together. And then just make sure trigger will slide in and out, so we're good. Glue the other side on. And my trigger. Just try a couple minutes. We should be ready to go pretty quick. So while we're waiting for that to dry, so you can see here, I didn't bother putting the two layers. I didn't take it all the way across. But here it looks, I think, a little bit better. Now, I didn't decorate mine, but there's no reason why you can't. If you have crayons, if you have markers, if you have paint, there's no reason why you can't personalize these and make them your own. So that way everybody knows whose gun it is and who it belongs to. And that way if more than one of you have them, there's no problem telling them apart. So, not quite dry yet. Looks like that came apart. Let's put a little more glue on there. Trigger is in. Now when we load it, we want to make sure that the trigger is in front of our notch. So you can see how that comes to a point there. So Will is still there. So let's take a look. Looks like the rubber band already fired. So I'm going to reload it here quick. So I pulled the trigger too fast. Okay, look to the left, no one there. Look to the right, no one there. No one between us and the target. And there we go. So that's how I made rubber band guns using, as we saw earlier, just a couple of pencils or 3 pencils and rubber bands, using clothespins and cardboard, or just using cardboard. Oh, and glue. We did use glue. So I hope you have fun today at It Takes My Child to Raise a Virtual Village, and I hope you had fun making your rubber band guns. So if you want to, you can always send pictures or post a picture on Lady Silly's site. There, I'm sure that she's got a place where you can record all of your accomplishments for the day. So let us know how you did and how much fun you had. And I'd love to see your targets as well. So take care and be safe.
Duck, duck, gray duck.